Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, and as usual broadcasting on TV1, part of the Capital Maharaja Group. And in the wake of the hacking attack on the presidential website, the need to address cybersecurity has all of a sudden come into focus. And joining me this morning to discuss cybersecurity and things related is Mr. Asela Waide-Lankara, the CEO of Chelsea Technologies. Very good morning to you, Asela Waide-Lankara.
Very good morning, Farash.
And
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here and on time on this wonderful morning.
Pleasure, mine. Thank you.
Tell me, what's going on in the world of hacking? Is it so serious that we all need to stand up and take notice?
Absolutely, Farash. Lloyd's magazine and Forbes magazine rather predicted that in 2019 the expenses incurred from cyber attacks would exceed $2 trillion. So that's the kind of money that we're talking about in cybersecurity, as well as the threat of cybersecurity worldwide.
And tell me, Asela, first of all, what is cybersecurity?
Well, cybersecurity is, when a person or an entity tries to enter into in an unauthorized manner, try to enter into a network or a computer system and tamper with the data, or make sure that the data is in some way changed.
Right.
And then that data sometimes is extracted and used for unauthorized use. So that in turn is a very overview definition of cybersecurity and what cybersecurity is.
I see. And can you give us an idea of the level of cyber attacks that occur in the world?
Absolutely. If we can actually just go to the website.
We can go on to the
yes, actually, this you can see right now is all of the cyber attacks that are happening in the world right now.
It's happening right now.
It's happening right now. So this is a website that aggregates this data and actually shows you. So each time one of those lines, I know it looks like a sci-fi movie, but each time one of those pings hits somewhere, it's a cyber attack that's taking place.
Right.
And it gives you, all of the details of the cyber attacks, which country is initiating it, which country is under attack, and right now, I believe the United States is the most attacked, and most attacks are originating from
the thing towards China seems to be a bit busy as well.
You're right.
And I did notice, happily, that there's not much activity, there's no activity in Sri Lanka. But that's what you've just shown us is what we know is happening.
Yes, those are known attacks.
And how much do you think is unknown? Can you estimate that? Can you guesstimate that?
I can't guesstimate that, but what I can tell you is this.
Yeah.
Usually, successful cyber attack is discovered usually 8 months or 1 year after it has occurred.
Oh, I see.
And usually that is the case, and that's how the level of skill that is required to do certain things like this.
Okay. So when we know that there is cybersecurity, there's also this talk that these hackers are are they all the same, all these hackers? Are they the same? And are all of them sort of after doom and destruction?
Well, two questions. First of all, no, they're not all the same.
Right.
Roughly there are about 5 or 6 types of hackers. We'll start off with the basic. There are a type of people called script kiddies. Now, script kiddies are usually amateurs that frequent cybersecurity, or rather hacking websites. And what happens is they play around with the tools that are available. Senior hackers have done things, and they try to emulate them. And once they do that, and now once they have a certain degree of skill, they try to use that skill to deface a website, to do some kind of vandalism, and gain a name for themselves. So those are the basic level. We call them script kiddies. Then you have your hacktivist. As another activist, as in the term activist. A hacktivist is an individual that has, he's motivated by politics or religion or some other strong factor, and he wants to make sure that agenda is pushed through. So he will do certain cyber attacks to make sure that his agenda is attracting attention.
Right.
So he might actually attack a website or attack a bank to make sure that there is attention to a certain social issue.
Right.
The most well-known hacktivist group is called Anonymous. They have done many attacks to get issues in basically issues that are right now in the media. They want social commentary on that.
Right.
So, for example, you know, they hacked when Julian Assange was taken into custody. They initiated a barrage of attacks against institutions that they believed were responsible for his capture, MasterCard and so many other banks.
Right.
And of late they have attacked the social media accounts of ISIS, which they believe is a force of evil. So in order to bring attention to the issue, they have done that. So moving on, then there's your black hat hackers. Now black hats are basically people who infiltrate a computer system and they'll they look for the least path of resistance, and they try to enter into a system and extract some data. These are your pros, by the way. And then you have your state-sponsored hackers. It's gotten to a point now that
the states have hackers.
States have hackers, and they use hackers to for their political agendas, geopolitical advantages, or corporate espionage. So I can't name countries, obviously, but there are notable countries that use hackers, state-sponsored hackers rather, for their activities,
for their PR work.
Let's say that. Then you have your spies, you know, cloak and dagger.
The 007 stuff.
Pretty much. You know, these are people who use their hacking skills to achieve some kind of target or to extract data from some.
So this is where companies may come under attack.
Perhaps.
Corporate espionage?
Corporate espionage would fall under spying as well. In some instances. And finally you have your cyber terrorist. Cyber terrorist is your normal terrorist in front of a computer rather, who uses their hacking skills to bring out some destruction and create some havoc, as would a normal terrorist do. But answering your question, is everyone doom and gloom? No, not really. Not all hackers are troublemakers. There's a very dedicated set of security professionals called ethical hackers or computer security professionals. Now these guys, they do the same thing, very dedicated set of people who go into systems, who probe all of the systems to see if there are any vulnerabilities, and in fact alert the necessary stakeholders about those vulnerabilities so that they can be patched. And that's called responsible disclosure. So if I indeed find anything, for example, in the Newsfirst website, I would actually bring it, alert it to you or the management here, and I will say, please fix this. That would be a responsible disclosure. That would not be hacking, because I am disclosing to you in order for you to patch those security holes that you will not come under attack.
And tell me, Asela, if we move on and look at an international perspective, what are the most notable hacks that we can think about?
In the interest of time, there are so many hacks right now, but in the interest of time I will touch on two hacks. One is in 2009, it's one of the world's most notable hacks, using the world's first cyber weapon called SucksNet. Now SucksNet was allegedly developed by United States of America with help of Israel, although they don't admit it. And it targeted the nuclear facility at Natanz, Iranian nuclear facility at Natanz, and managed to cripple 1/5 of the Iranian nuclear program. And this was a weaponized malware that they used, and it was a very specifically designed malware that targeted the PLCs, or programmable logic controllers, in the plant. And what happens from there is, once they identified these, they started recording the normal function of these logic controllers, which controls the centrifuges. And then at a specific date, they initiated an attack which made the centrifuges malfunction. And the beauty of it was, to the operators, it appeared that nothing was wrong.
I see.
And it resulted in the explosion of several reactors and irreparable damage. I think it set the Iranian nuclear program back about 5 to 10 years.
So we could probably safely guess that it was the State of Israel looking after their security.
Well, that I cannot confirm nor deny.
No,
but
you sound as though you're a spokesperson for the State of Israel. Are you?
Absolutely not. But
have you done any spying work?
Not that I know of.
You haven't knowingly spied?
Not really.
Right, okay. So, what about Edward Snowden? Can we talk about him?
Well, Edward Snowden was, he basically ran a website called WikiLeaks,
right,
which allowed people to make certain disclosures. I think one of the most famous ones of late is the Mosaic Fonseca leak. Right. But we wouldn't call that hacking really. That was more on the line of whistleblowing,
right,
where I feel that an organization that I'm involved in is doing some kind of nefarious activity or illegal activity. I can actually go on WikiLeaks and whistleblow that to the entire world.
Right.
Not in the lines of hacking, but when Edward Snowden was captured, like I mentioned, the hacker collective Anonymous launched a massive cyber attack to all of the people who were responsible for this arrest.
Edward Snowden was the same website as Julian Assange, is it?
Yes.
I see. And this is the same chap who broke into the American... well, I think the Americans had to change their laws and so on after Mr. Snowden made his...
Edward Snowden was a NSA contractor.
Yeah.
What he did was he brought to light a lot of the eavesdropping that the National Security Agency of the United States was doing.
Right.
And it was a startling revelation because he used WikiLeaks to bring to light the information that he had shared.
Right.
And basically what we found out was that the NSA had a program called PRISM,
right,
which was an illegal eavesdropping program,
right,
which was eavesdropping for friend and foe of the United States.
That's right.
For example, Angela Merkel,
yes,
was being eavesdropped by the United States. For example, they had and actually what was startling from the cybersecurity point of view was they had developed a set of tools, right, readily available off the shelf, which they could gain access into most computer systems in the world. And what happens was after the leak, I think most of the tech companies got together and tried to patch this.
Right.
Also, interestingly, what we found out was some of the tech companies, the big tech companies, were in agreement with the NSA to share certain data.
Right.
And once this disclosure came into light,
yeah,
they had to backtrack very, very fast.
Right. At the time, I remember that we were treated to an explanation that the United States merely did not eavesdrop on friendly nations and friendly leaders. So that caused a bit of consternation, because where does one construe Germany? Would it have been friend or foe?
Germany was very much a friend.
But
yes,
yet Madam Merkel's phone was eavesdropped upon. I remember that President Obama had to change the rules because apparently if you were on roaming and if you were not in your native country but you were roaming, they could listen to all of what you spoke of.
Absolutely.
So rather frightening. And I did write to the US, some officials at the time, asking if President Rajapaksa's telephone was being tapped. I didn't get a response, perhaps naturally, perhaps, as you say. But what about the Sri Lankan context? Is this well publicized hacking of the presidential website? Is this the first such attack?
Absolutely not. In fact, it will surprise some that the first cyber attack by a terrorist group happened in Sri Lanka back in 1998.
Right.
The Liberation Tamil Tigers of Elam, or
yeah,
the LTTE,
yeah,
launched a very cyber attack into the Sri Lankan embassies. At the time, the Sri Lankan embassies had were swamped with about 800 emails per day, and this occurred for about 2 weeks' time. And literally, it read that we are the Black Tigers and we are here to disrupt your communications. So that was the first known cyber attack by a terrorist group, which was incidentally carried out by the LTTE. Also, back in 2009, once the battle against the Tigers were coming to a conclusion, the Media Center for National Security, the Army.lk website, as well as there was a news website called Lanka, all three were hacked, and basically they were out of commission for about 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. Again in 2013, 22 government websites were hacked, allegedly by Bangladeshi grey hat hackers. And one of the most notable hacks, Farash, was happened in 2014, where it was launched by a group of hackers, and they had actually a Twitter handle for it called Op Sri Lanka and a hashtag called Op Sri Lanka. They managed to get down 340 government websites, and what was most alarming was, although they actually put down the government websites, they shared the login credentials of all those government websites, the users on the internet. And some of those websites were the Prime Minister's office, Sri Lanka Police, the Immigrations Department, and very much other important websites. Their login credentials were shared. So ideally, that was one of the most brutal, I suppose, attacks that our cyber infrastructure has faced in 2014, rather.
So, are you saying, Senator, that the input of the LCT, or the influence and their attacks, also included the world of cyber?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So perhaps a well-deserved title then, that the world's most dangerous terrorist organization at the time.
Absolutely.
And didn't we do well to defeat them? Well done, chaps. Everybody who played a role. But now tell me, can you tell us a bit about the current hack that has occurred on the presidential website?
Absolutely. Well, the current hack that occurred was, as you know, in 25th of August, the president's website was hacked by an individual, and basically what happened was the presidential website was defaced. The following message appeared on the website: "Dear Mr. President, we are extremely displeased about your decision to hold the A-levels in April, since the Sinhala Tamil New Year falls between the exam dates. Therefore, please reconsider the decision. Furthermore, take care of the security of Sri Lankan website, or else you'll have to face cyber war. If you cannot control the situation, hold a presidential election. And finally, stop the Prime Minister's irresponsible work. Look into the problems of the university."
That chap had a sort of
he had a list of demands.
message.
He had a list of demands.
He's making sorry, he's making the same sort of demands that most of the public are asking, that the Prime Minister gets his act together. What a wonderful chap. But, I mean, seriously, did he do grave damage? He's a bit young, isn't he?
Well, what you can say is this is act of cyber vandalism.
Yes.
The president's website was hosted on a popular content management system called WordPress. A lot of people use WordPress. Many of the world's bloggers, journalists, they use WordPress.
Oh, I use WordPress as well.
Fantastic.
Indeed.
But the problem with WordPress is that WordPress has inherent security issues, and because of that, ideally, since it's the president's website, the head of states, there should have been a security check that should have been done, so to make sure that known vulnerabilities were fixed on this platform.
I have a question from a viewer.
Okay.
And yes, we do have viewers who are up and about at this time of the morning and who are paying robust attention to what's going on Newsline. Now then, this question is from somebody who says, why is Apple not so vulnerable?
Apple is not so vulnerable because not as versus Android, which has what we call a fragmented operating system. As you know, they've leased out that operating system to many vendors. So there's your Samsung, there's your HTC, there's your so on and so many vendors, and that's why it's one of the world's most used mobile operating systems. But when it comes to Apple, Apple controls the hardware, Apple controls the software, Apple controls what is in the App Store, Apple controls what is released into the App Store. So there is more oversight on Apple's part. Some would argue, therefore, there's lack of innovation on Apple's part, but in turn, in a security perspective, Apple has fairly secure ecosystem versus its Android counterpart. But then this is a point of contention because there have been of late, very recently, I think back last week, there was a vulnerability that was found in Apple. So the point what we are trying to make is, I think no operating system or no mobile operating system is fully secure. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. But on a point of contention, yes, Apple's system could be considered secure, OS could be considered secure.
So I can now see the queues forming outside all the Apple resellers in the country, because everybody's now going to buy themselves an Apple. Well done, Asela. But can you tell us, do you know of any countermeasures that have been taken, or that is apparently being taken on the President's website post the hack?
Well, I believe what happened was, after the hack happened, obviously the site was brought down, a security review was done, and I think a decision was taken that all of the government websites should be controlled by ICTA and SL-CERT. SL-CERT is the primary body that deals with these matters, who've done a yeoman service in the past to the security forces as well as the investigative agencies in their services. So SL-CERT has done a security assessment, and I believe ICTA has taken a decision that all of the government websites should be under ICTA's purview, and SL-CERT should look after the security of it. Going forward, I believe the Honorable Minister of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure has made a comment that 2 billion rupees would be allocated to set up the National Security Operations Center, or SOC. So that would give us basically...
And what would they do?
That would give us preventive action on it, because we will have an idea that these attacks are happening, and we will have a proactive approach to these attacks rather than a reactive approach which we are practicing at the moment.
Right. And so I want to go back to the presidential hack. The hacker has been identified as a rather young chap, 17 years old, we're told, and the president has said that he will look into it as would a father would. Do you think that some people who we've been speaking to about this thing, some people say that actually this young man should be hired by the president's office to look after the security of those websites, and that he has a real role, and an important one at that, to play in the overall security picture. What do you feel on that?
Couple of things. First of all, you asked 17 years, he's very young. In fact, I just want to give you 2 points of 2 examples. First example is there's something called the bug bounty. All of these top IT companies, Facebook, Instagram, they have something called bug bounties, where if you discover a bug in their system, they would actually give you money, and usually range.
You mean they get paid?
They get paid. They usually pay about upwards of $10,000 to about $50,000. So there's a young man this year, actually 10-year-old young man. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. He discovered a security flaw in Instagram, which allowed anyone to exploit that security flaw who could delete all of the comments. Now, what he did was he actually alerted it. It was a responsible disclosure, like I mentioned.
So at 10 years old,
at 10 years old,
responsible young man.
Yes, exactly.
He is obviously going to vote right.
Also, last year, the CIA, that's the American one, director's personal emails were hacked, and actually that exposed an affair that he was having. That was hacked by a 13-year-old young man. So again, when you say 17 is young, a point of contention, because there have been younger hackers.
He's much old. He is very much older than the 10-year-old.
Very much.
I see.
Going on to the other point that you mentioned, yes. Hiring hackers, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly. Good is, yes, basically security professionals take a different viewpoint when it comes to cybersecurity. They're always defense. Whereas hackers have an offensive mindset, and they've spent a considerable amount of time honing their skills to do offensive measures in websites. So that knowledge is useful. But, question I'll ask you, would you trust a former bank embezzler to be a banker?
You know, I wouldn't, but that's a bit contentious, because we have other matters. But anyway, we'll stick to cybersecurity.
Exactly. But problem is, it's a matter of trust, rather. When you get a person on board with a certain predetermined skill set, yes, they may be reformed, and there are companies that actually employ these young men in their role. I know certain companies abroad that actually hire hackers, and part of their services are that they will they will hack a company's website and
Yeah.
show you the security flaws, and they'll actually charge you for it as a consultancy fee.
Right.
So that's a legitimate service that they do, and that's done by hackers.
Right.
So there is opening for this young man, but problem is hiring hackers.
Right.
Is a matter of trust, because you're giving this guy the keys to the castle
Indeed.
and trusting him not to do that.
Right.
And the point you must understand is, Faraj, as a hacker,
Yeah.
especially even this young man, there were 3 points to note. First of all, he went into and unauthorizedly went into somebody else's computer system or
Right.
somebody else's domain,
Yes.
and then he defaced it,
Yes.
and then he obviously set a list of demands.
Yeah.
There are 3 points here. First of all, his moral compass is flawed. He obviously, this was wrong,
Yeah.
and then he did it anyway.
Yeah.
Second of all, he broke the law. As for the Computer Crimes Act of Sri Lanka, it is a crime
Right.
to do this,
I see.
and therefore he broke the law.
Okay.
And third, clearly he has a problem with authority. So no moral compass, breaking the law, questions with authority. Now, are those the stuff that you want in an employee? Because I believe an employee, you would want them to be ethical.
Yes, it's all about ethical and all about trust. And when you asked me the question about what would I trust somebody so and so about the bank manager, and that's the point. It's all a question of trust. We trust our money to be safe and sound at the central bank, and we'd like them to take care of it and not get involved in all sorts of questionable transactions. Final question: how do you think, Mr. Vaidilankara, how do you think at national level or policy level should we engage cyber security?
Well, in the point we should have noticed that ICT is aggressively pursuing to move our infrastructure into the cyberspace.
Right.
We have the ENIC project that's coming. We have National Payment Platform. A lot of interesting and very good measures, welcome measures to bring the government closer to the people via the internet. The flip side of that is cybersecurity. It should be looked into. I believe they are seriously looking into that with the investments into the SOC. But I think a point of contention is we must look at a national cybersecurity policy where there is a framework to proactively monitor these threats, to counter these threats, and possibly to set up a body that will maybe talk to the National Security Council or maybe answerable to the President or the Prime Minister, where they talk about cybersecurity, because cybersecurity, rather the cyberspace, is something that will, our economy, our national government, our public life, all will be based on that. And I think going forward we need to, just as we ensure the security of land, sea and air,
Yeah.
we must ensure the security of cyberspace.
Indeed. And I thought it would be the last question, but another one's cropped up, and that is this. We have well-documented cases where the bank of Ceylon have lost their customers' monies because they've fallen victim to these Nigerian scammers. And I know of at least 2 cases that's now ongoing, in which both these gentlemen lost their monies that was in some account and had been transferred out, and that's an ongoing matter. Can we avoid these sort of situations, or should the banks and so on be? There's now another thing raging with the People's Bank, and they're talking about it's all about security in the end, because there's some contention going on there. Can a proper, coherent cyber policy, cybersecurity policy, help with these matters?
To a degree, it can. What the instance you talk about is what we call social engineering. And now social engineering is just a fancy term for a con job.
Right.
Where I con you into thinking I'm someone else,
Right.
or in this case a Nigerian prince who desperately needs money, and
Right.
if you send me $1,000, I will send you $2 million.
Right.
So when you have such an instance, again, you must take a double take on it, and personally you must have that awareness that maybe this is a scam. If it's too good to be true, it's possibly is a scam. But from the banking perspective, yes, you must educate your customers about phishing. You must educate your customers about scams that are happening on the internet. You must have an active way to make sure that even, especially the priority customers as well as the other customers, are weekly or maybe monthly informed about the threats that are happening. Probably, or even in fact, as a reverse psychology, maybe send them a phishing email from the bank, and actually when they click on it, actually you can pop up a message and say, listen, this is a sample phishing email, and you should not in future click on stuff like this. So maybe that's a countermeasure that they can take. But the banks have a big role to play, because a bank's safety and a bank's robustness is a reflection of national stability.
Aselo Waidilankara, thank you very much for being on Newsline. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and you've kept us enthralled with all this. Thank you for watching Newsline. On the day after that, Mother Teresa was announced that a sainthood was conferred upon her. If you are humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are. On that note, take care. Have a great day, and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.